You've heard it that said that the ancients were told, "You shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court." Here's one we think we've got a handle on. We haven't murdered anybody. We must be good here. There are some philosophical treatises that we could go off on too, and maybe sometime we will do that, but that is not the message for today. We think that we've got this one down good. And just when we do, Jesus comes along and says, "But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty for the court." I understand that in the Greek translation, the emphasis is on I. Jesus was making himself the authority on the law. He was making himself a better authority on the law than the Pharisees. That was probably a reason that they didn't care for him much. He was challenging the very foundations of what they were teaching. And it is good sometimes for us to have what we think about our religion challenged. As we've been seeing, it is easy to become judgmental and short-sighted in what we do as our religion. It is easy for us to get busy doing religion and forget the meaning of it. Jesus sort of gives us a psychology lesson. He knows that anger is not good to be held in relationships. He knows anger is not good to be harbored within us. Anger is a lack of forgiveness. Well, we may have a good reason for being angry, but when we are angry, we can't be blessed. We can't be truly happy. It may be hard to do in some cases. We may have a very good reason for being angry with someone. In some cases, we have been hurt pretty deep by people. But if you hang around Jesus for long, you'll find out that this Christianity thing wasn't meant to be easy. And if we work on these relationships, we break through in these relationships, we will be blessed and we will be made happy in ways that we didn't think were possible. It was all about relationships. The relationship that existed in the Godhood long before the creation of humankind. And that love that existed in that relationship was passed down to humankind. But the relationship was broken. It needed repair. And through Jesus' work on the cross, it was repaired. It was restored. This passage is about restoring relationships with others. Well, we may think, okay, we've got a handle on this. We're not particularly angry with anybody. And Jesus comes by and says, if we're talking bad about other people for no real reason, we're guilty enough to go to the fires of hell. Many a church has been torn apart by gossip and dissension. Oh, good Christians have a way of getting around this. You say, oh, look at Sister Bertha over there. You see what she's been doing? Yeah, we really need to pray for her. And somehow we find ourselves not much better than the Pharisee who says, I'm glad I'm not as bad as that sinner over there. Jesus is calling us to be respectful to people we don't like, people who disagree with us, people who are different from us, people that believe differently than we believe. There are times when we have to defend our faith, but never in a degrading way. I remember one pastor who used to call another local congregation the devil's crowd, just because they didn't believe in the doctrine of the perseverance of the saints the same way he did. And Jesus is saying such people are guilty to the fires of hell. Jesus goes further. Therefore, if you're presenting your offering at the altar and there remembering that your brother has something against you, leave your offering there before the altar and go first to be reconciled to your brother, and then come and present your offering. Note that he doesn't say if your brother has or sister has something justifiable against you. He just says if he or she have something against you, you need to go and see them. It doesn't matter who is right or wrong in the relationship. In some relationships, we have been hurt. And indeed, we have to make sure that we're not hurt anymore. But we are called to do what we can to try and reconcile that relationship. We might have to make it clear that we cannot have a real relationship with that person, but we still tell them that we forgive them, that we love them. It's not easy. Jesus never called us to easy. You want easy, go to Staples. Why does Jesus mention the altar? Because it's not only has to do with the relationship that we're having with other people, it has to do with our relationship with God. Sometimes we feel that there are barriers in our relationship with God and that we can't seem to break through and get as close to God as we want. Sometimes those barriers are our anger that we feel towards other people. It has to do with our unforgiving natures, our harboring of bitterness, our unwilling to heal relationships. Father God gave his Son to reconcile relationships. So you might say that he's all about reconciling relationships. And when we are unwilling to reconcile our relationships with others, we're going to find it standing between us and our relationship with God. Sometimes it'll even skew our idea of who we think God is. We cannot see God as a loving, forgiving Father until we are willing to be a loving and forgiving person. We are willing to show love and forgiveness to other people. One of the things I've been learning lately is about honoring people. That means we show them respect. It means we show them esteem. This becomes difficult with people who we don't think have a whole lot of honor. We don't think that they have a whole lot to offer us. It's difficult when people who have hurt us to find honor in them. Can we find honor in a person, a broken person who is doing their best to get by? The Apostle Paul wrote that true love will bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, and endure all things. Can we find honor in a person, a broken person, just because they are the children of God, made in the very image of God, no matter how broken that image might be at the time? Can we find honor in a damaged person because we know that we are damaged people who have just fallen under the grace and mercy of God? Jumping ahead, we find Jesus' in the text, we find Jesus' admonition. But if you do not forgive others, then your Father will not forgive your transgressions. For in the way you judge, you will be judged. By your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. These verses are talking about barriers that exist between us and our relationship with God. If it is our desire to grow closer to God, we need to remove these barriers. We need to learn how to operate without anger, with love, with forgiveness. The end result is blessings and happiness in ways we thought weren't possible.